Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara Tuckett. I am the owner of Sweet Dreams Travel. I am a travel advisor, a wellness travel specialist. So I believe that our mind, body, and spirit all play into our well-being and are all part of our total wellness. And I create travel experiences for people which improve wellness so that you return from your vacation with more health, more happiness, more connection, whatever it is that you need to help your wellness at the time. So I am super excited about today. I am also very nervous, so please excuse if I stumble over my words. This is my very first episode. I am starting something brand new, excited, not super techy, so I'm really hoping for the best in my efforts today. Hope it turns out just great. So to start off with, this is episode 1. I am recording it for and going to put it on YouTube and then also for a podcast that will be ongoing. So the title of this episode is Out of Your Comfort Zone, a bike trip that's as comfortable as you want it to be. So today's aspect of wellness, each broadcast, I will highlight an aspect of wellness. And today's aspect of wellness that I am highlighting for your travel pleasure is a sense of adventure. So today we're going to be talking about our sense of adventure with the trip that I'm highlighting. Let me start with a story. Years ago, my husband and I and our then 1-year-old little son went on a vacation. We went to visit my aunt and uncle who live in Seattle, the Seattle area. So while we were there, I wasn't yet a travel advisor or anything, but while we were there visiting, they suggested that we do this fun whale watching tour all together. We had never done anything like that, and we thought it sounded amazing. And so they booked it, and off we went on the appointed day. So we get on the boat, we're sailing get out of the harbor into the ocean, and all of a sudden, those little butterflies and that nervousness and that slight feeling of maybe I will have some issues suddenly came to a head. And I went into full panic mode. And the reason was that I realized I was soon going to be very seasick, which happened. And unfortunately, on that entire whale watching trip, I was seasick the whole time. I was throwing up over the side of the boat. So I tried to be as inconspicuous as possible. I tried to kind of laugh it off and not call attention to myself, but it's kind of hard to miss when somebody on the boat is heaving over the side. Anyway, everyone else on the trip had a great time. We saw plenty of whales, and my aunt and uncle even joked that the reason that they came so close to the ship is because I was chumming for them. Ha ha ha, very funny. Anyway, I did not have a great time. And of course, if I had known that I was going to be seasick, then I could have taken precautions. Now, I did have, to be completely honest, spirit of transparency, I did have an inkling that this might happen, which is why I had a little bit of nervousness and butterflies and dread that had been building as we talked about this trip, kind of in the back of my mind. Because as a child, the last time I had been out on the ocean was when we went on a family deep sea fishing trip. And then I was completely sick and throwing up the entire time as well. So I should have known that my seasickness was not going to improve just because I was an adult and not a kid anymore. But I didn't trust that little feeling, and I didn't prepare for my own comfort by just saying, hey, let's get some Dramamine or something because I might be sick. I didn't tell anyone about that. I just went ahead and went on the trip anyway. So I totally could have saved myself so much of that heartache that I went through on that trip. However, I tried to, put a good face on it and have as much fun as I could. All right. So now I'm going to leave that story for a minute, and I am going to switch gears and go into today's topic of today's trip, It is not a boating trip or whale watching tour. It is a bike trip. Now, when I said it was a bike trip, that may have either made you super excited if you love biking, or if you think that that might be a fun adventure that you would want to go on. Or B, it might have made you kind of shut down and think, oh, that is totally not for me. I am not a biker, so I could never do that. Or C, it might have made you somewhere in between. I'll keep listening just to see if maybe anything she says is good. So I want you to hang on to that thought that you have, that maybe this bike trip would never be for you, if that's what you did think, and stay with me and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, and maybe you will have a different idea by the end. So I'm going to, all right, I'm going to share my screen so that we can get into this. Let's see. Get into this. Okay, there we go. All right, yay, shared my screen. If you are listening only, if you're on the podcast, then bear with me. I'm going to go through it pretty detailed and read what is on the screen so that you won't miss anything. So I'm going to talk about an amazing trip, a bike trip. I chose this trip. There are bike trips all over, inside the US and outside the US. I am recording this in the summer of 2020, when we are in the middle of our coronavirus pandemic, kind of coming out of it. Depends on where you are in the world and in the United States for how far out of it you are, or if you're still fully under restrictions. But at the time of the recording, I chose a bike tour that is still in the US, because that's where I live and where most of my clients live as well. And I did this because this is a completely accessible trip that you could book for this summer or for this fall, or if you're a little worried about traveling summer or fall quite this soon, then even into next spring or summer, into next year, 2021. So I titled it the Bryce and Science Bike Tour Summer Fall 2020, but just know that it's completely bookable into the future, into next year. I let the cat out of the bag when I told you the title. Yes, this tour is to one of my favorite places, to Bryce and Science National Park. And that is such an amazing place to be, to go and explore and experience. So I'm going to go through this and hang on to your reservations and doubts, and let's see what you think. All right, first of all, let's talk about the types of bikes. Now, the bikes on this tour, the bikes, the helmets, all of the maintenance on the bikes, everything is completely taken care of for you. So if that was a worry that you might have, or a question, just know that you don't have to worry about any of that. All of the maintenance, the helmets, the equipment, everything and including the bikes, are provided for you. So that's kind of a cool thing. So let's talk about the different types of bikes that you could ride on. There are two types of road bikes. I'm going to talk about one now and then one in a minute. The first one is a custom designed titanium bike. It's lightweight, has some great components to it, Shimano components and some others. I am not personally a super big road biker, and so I'm not going to get into all of the details of that, but if you want to go on this bike trip and you contact me about it, I will get you all of the details so that you know exactly what this bike is. But it's a really nice performing road bike that's titanium. A second option is what's called a touring bike. I call it a hybrid because it's similar to a road bike, the handle, except it's more stable. The seat is more comfortable. The handlebars aren't bent clear down, but they're upright so that it's more comfortable to ride. It's got a kind of a longer wheelbase than a road bike, and so it adds control and stability. A lot of people really love to use these touring bikes or these hybrids for their trips because they're just a really more comfortable, not quite as high tech as a road bike. So those are two options. The third option, this one is seriously my all-time favorite, an e-bike. So this is where no matter what your comfort level with, or discomfort level, I should say, with a biking tour, no matter what your discomfort level, an e-bike is your best friend. Seriously, if you have never been on an electric assist bike, you've got to try one out. You could go to any bike store, I think, and just give it a spin and see what they're like. My neighbors have one, which is where I have tried it before, but they're so cool because you can switch it so that you have as much or as little effort as you want when you are riding this bike. So you can make it so that all you're doing is spinning the pedals and you really don't have to do anything, and the bike is taking care of all of the work for you. Or you can completely switch it off and have all of the control on your own and work really hard. So you can work as hard or as hard or as not hard as you want. I don't know what the word was for that. Anyway, it makes hills great because it doesn't totally wear you out, and you can get as much help as you want for the hills or the flat parts or anything else. So an e-bike is like amazing. It's the star, I think. All right. The next option is, remember I told you there were two road bike options. So this is the second road bike option. It is a little more of an upgrade. It's for an extra $400 for a rental fee on this one because it's more the professional grade of road bike. It's a carbon bike. So it's a top of the line Cannondale Synapse High Mod Red ETAP AXS. So for those of you who are road bike fans, that probably meant something to you. Like I said, I am not a road biker. I have a hybrid myself, and so I have, brothers and really good friends who are, but that is not something that I do. So anyway, it's really great for hardcore riders. You would love this bike, and it would be totally worth the extra $400 rental fee that you would pay for it. So so far we've talked about two different types of road bikes, the e-bike and the hybrid. There is one more that I want to tell you about, and that is a tandem bike. So if you are going with someone that you really want to experience this trip with every bit of the way, you could rent or include, it is an extra rental fee, but you could include in your rental a tandem bike. So please do not, if you go on this trip and you are interested in a tandem bike, please don't have your tandem bike rental be the very first time you have been on a tandem bike, because tandem bikes are trickier than they look. So hopefully if you are deciding to rent a tandem bike with your other partner rider, that you are both experienced tandem bike riders. There is an additional $400 rental fee for this one as well. So it's a hand-built frame. Anyway, it's a great bike as well. So let me know if you are interested in that. So let me talk about next. We're going to switch gears, and talk about the other parts of the tour that are included. Besides the bikes and the equipment, helmets, and everything, this tour is a 5-night, 6-day tour. All of your breakfasts are included, 6 of your lunches are included, and 4 dinners are included. So that is a lot of food that is included. There are experienced trip leaders, of course, which will take you along the way, and they bring snacks and beverages for between your meals. There are also additional guides and experts. Part of this tour, you have options to do some of the hikes that are in the area, and so there are additional guides. There is a van, a shuttle van, that rides along with you on your trip, and so you can have the option anytime you want to of riding in the van rather than riding the bike, because it accompanies you on your trip. All of the gratuities at your hotels and your restaurants are included. And like I said, park entry fees are included, so you don't have to pay additional to get into the national parks that you're going to be visiting. So there is a ton of stuff that is included with these bike tours. They're just basically all done for you, other than the adventure and the experience of going. So let's talk about where it goes. This particular tour starts and ends in St. George, Utah. And St. George, the closest airport to St. George is Las Vegas in Nevada. It's 2 hours away. That is the closest international airport. There is also a small airport, regional airport in St. George itself. So you could fly into St. George if you needed a flight. And I actually have flown into St. George. I live in northern Utah, and I have flown to St. George myself from northern Utah because I didn't want to drive. So, so there's that. There is a St. George airport, or Las Vegas would be the closest to fly into. You spend time you begin and end in St. George. You spend some time over at Bryan Head, and that is right by Cedar Breaks National Monument. So you get to go through and see the Cedar Breaks area, and then you bike over to Bryce Canyon National Park, and then over into Zion's National Park, and then back to St. George. So it's a whole loop that you do around these beautiful areas. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we go along. The activity level for this bike tour is overall a 2 through 4. Activity levels are basically depend on how long and how much gain there is, how much altitude gain there is in the levels. So for example, level 1 would be around 20 miles or less, with not a lot of gain in altitude. So for example, on day 1, you could go 20 miles with a 600-foot gain, and that would be a level 1. Or if you wanted to go level 2, you could go the full 28 miles and have an 800-foot gain. On day 2 on this trip, you could either go level 3, level 4, or level 5. Level 3 would be 35 miles, level 4 would be 52 miles, and level 5 would be 62 miles. So you could do any combination of those levels with anywhere between 600-foot gain up to 2,500-foot gain. So level 5 is really 62 miles with a 2,500-foot gain. That's a lot of climb. That's a lot of climb. But if you had your trusty e-bike, you might want to try it. Or you could also opt for going in the van part of the way and biking part of the way. So you can have complete options on that. Day 3 is between level 2 and 3. Level 2 is the 16-mile ride with an 800-foot gain, and level 3 is a 33-mile ride with a 2,500-foot gain. So there is also on day 3 an option of hiking in Bryce Canyon National Park. The hike would be from 3 to 7 miles. So if you wanted to have the hiking option, that's when that comes in. Day 4, levels between level 3 and 4, 33 to 52 miles with between a 600-foot gain and a 2,000-foot gain. Day 5 mostly just has a whole bunch of different hiking options in Zion's National Park. So you're there and you can hike for 2 miles the whole day and only a 200-foot elevation gain, up to 8-mile hikes between your various hikes during the course of the day, and 2,200 feet elevation gain. And then day 6 is just a level 1 biking back to St. George from where you started. So hopefully that wasn't too much bogged down in all of the different levels. Basically, each day you choose your level, you choose how much biking you want to do, how much effort you want to make, how much riding you want to do in the van versus none at all. So it's really, really, really great because each day you can decide what you want to do and how much you want to do. So let's talk about the exact itinerary for a minute. It's a 6 days, like I said, 5 nights, 6 days. Day 1, you start in St. George and you stay that night at a place called the Inn at Entrada. It's a really nice casual hotel. It's in a gated community, surrounded by the red rock cliffs. It's just beautiful, beautiful location, nice hotel. Then the 2nd and 3rd nights, you are staying at the lodge at Bryce Canyon. So you're in the Bryce Canyon area. You get to, like I mentioned earlier, you get to bike by Cedar Breaks National Monument. There are lots of columns and arches and towers that are all in that red rock. That's just really beautiful. And then from Cedar Breaks, you head into Bryce Canyon, and you can hike, you can bike. There's really time to explore a lot of that area, both by hiking and biking. So the lodge at Bryce Canyon, where you're staying for those 2 nights, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's kind of simple, more simple. It's right by the canyon's edge, right there by Bryce Canyon. And it's really kind of a rustic, really fun place to stay, that you feel like you're just right in the heart of it all. On to day 4 through 6. So on the last 2 nights of your trip, you are staying in a town called Springdale, which is right on the edge of Zion's National Park. It's called the Cable Mountain Lodge, and they've got a pool, they've got a hot tub, and on these 2 days, you basically have the chance to explore Zion's National Park. You can go through the canyon on a bike, you can take lots of hikes, you can take time to swim in the pool, relax in the hot tub. It's just really beautiful, and you can just really enjoy Zion's National Park for the final 2 nights of your trip. So back to, now that I have kind of summarized the biking trip and hopefully made you somewhat excited about it, back to my boating story and how that all ties in. Now, I did become a travel agent within just a couple of years of that trip, and have had many opportunities to go on cruises since then. So since I know I get so seasick, I have prepared for it. Being seasick has not stopped me from going on cruises. I have been on several different cruises, all different places, and I really love it. And the reason I love it is because I am comfortable. I'm just as comfortable as everyone else when I have the medication that I need. And so this is kind of my takeaway for this bike trip. Something that might seem daunting and scary for someone who may not be an avid biker, or who might have a little bit of an interest but still has those butterflies and those feelings of, I'm not sure if I could really do that. Take heart from my cruising story, from my boating story, and just know that with all of the accommodations that I have told you about, you could really do this trip. And it could be an amazing, amazing, wonderful experience to go with 1, 2, 3, a whole group of other people, however you would want to do it. So that's the moral of the story. Get over your fears and be willing to add some adventure to your travel style. So who is this trip for? It's great for couples, great for friends groups, neighbors or friends or like-minded people. It is great for solos, for single travelers, because you are with a very small group of people and you get to know them really well and just have a lot of fun. It's just super enjoyable. It is perfect for older teens and people in their 20s. So if you had a multi-generation type of group, or if you're parents with kids in their older teens or 20s, this would be a perfect trip for you. as well, because it's so fun to have shared experiences and bonding, and just so fun to get to see all of this beautiful scenery. It also is an amazing trip for a private group, and we do many, many private groups of this nature. For example, company groups. It's a great way to bond or to be an incentive kind of group for your business or your company. Like I said, multi-generation families. If you wanted to bring several people, you could just fill up a private group, and that could be your vacation for the year. And it's an amazing, amazing experience for that. The private groups, just as a word to the wise, are the ones that fill up the fastest. So if you are thinking that you may want to do a trip like this and you've got a group in mind, then contact me right away to find out if what dates still have availability. This trip leaves a couple of times, has a couple of dates that they go every single month throughout the kind of spring, summer, fall. And so it doesn't leave every day. It's not one that is constantly coming and going. There really are scheduled dates. However, if you had a private group and you wanted to schedule your own dates, that could be a possibility as well, just depending on how big your group is and what type of equipment that you would be using, just to make sure it didn't overlap with another group that was already going. So there are lots and lots of possibilities. This is an amazing trip. And I just want to invite you to, if this was something that you're kind of sort of interested in, but you want to see other types of ideas and other itineraries and things that we do, you are welcome to visit our website. The name of the agency is Sweet Dreams Travel, and it's SUITE rather than the SWEET that you would think. So Sweet Dreams Travel. Our website is sweetdreamstravel.net rather than .com. So you are welcome to see any of our other itineraries that we have. We have several sample itineraries and ideas on our website. So go over there, check us out, see what you think. I hope you have enjoyed today's little taste of what's available, a type of adventure travel that you could do that would be super fun, and your aspect of wellness being adventure and tapping into that. I have loved being a part of this today, and thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again and talking again. If you'd like to contact me, you can go to the website and find my contact information there, or you can comment or respond to the podcast or the recording. And thanks a lot. I will talk to you later, and thanks for joining me.